Now, a question for you guys. Do you edit images on your phone? And I mean professional kind images that you're sharing with clients or you're sharing on the social media. Hey, what's up? It's Tom and we are here with another creator quest. Now, these quests are all about checking out your creativity and how to boost that. So today we are going to take a look at how your phone can actually be an important factor in that. Because nowadays I edit most of my images in the field that I want to share directly on Instagram, just on this little thing. No big screen needed anymore. At the end of this video, I have a special gift for all of you. It's a way of a thank you for all the things that you do for me. So I just wanted to share something with all of you. Maybe it's also nice if I can pull it up on the screen so you can actually follow along with me. That's very important. So the first thing that I actually do is just going over a lot of presets. And the reason that I do this is because I made these presets for specific functions and for specific color schemes, so I can just check all of the different vibes that I can go through with this edit. A few of these are actually looking pretty good with a little bit of a gold coloring, so I think that's the way I want to go with this image. So yeah, we've looked at a few of these presets. Now, these are normally a starting point for me, so I don't just drag and drop a preset on there. Normally I just take this and then I go through with an edit. But for this purpose, I'm going to show you everything from scratch. So let's just dive into the cropping first. So what I'm doing right now is cropping this for Instagram, and Instagram handles the portrait very well. So that's a 4:5 aspect ratio. So I'm just trying to get it lined up nicely. I think that's it. So next I'm just going to follow along on the bar. So the first thing is light. I like to go with the curves because with the curves you can really play with the faded look of the faded blacks and also the crushed whites. What I do then is just put 5 points on the axis, and then you just play along with the edges to get an S-form curve. Now, there are a lot of tutorials about all of this specifically, so I'm not gonna go through that. This is just like the things that I do, that I go through with an edit. Then you're just going to pull up the blacks a little bit so you get that crushed look, and then you go down with the whites as well. So you see that you're crushing the whites, but we can always come back later. So a little bit with the exposure, but I think that's pretty good. Maybe adding some contrast, playing around with the highlights and the shadows and the whites, and just until you find that the lighting is pretty good on this image. I think that looks pretty good. Then we're going to the next panel, which is the color mixing. And this is very important because we have a lot of greens and we have a lot of blues. So this is where we really set those out. First, playing around with the temperature a little bit, because this is shot raw. We can still play with that in post. I think I'm gonna add a little bit to the yellow to get started with the gold theme that we're going with this. So we're going to the color mixing tab, so we can see, like, you can edit the hue, the saturation and luminance of all the colors of the rainbow. Woo! So why don't we start with the blues? What I like to do is go with the hue and just go a little bit into the teal or the aqua, what it's called here. Just don't overdo it. Just adding a little bit of the aqua until it looks like one of the nice postcards. You know, that's the feel that we're going here. And then also taking back the luminance. If you go all the way, you can see how much detail there still is, but it just looks like crap. So we're gonna fix that in another way. That's just too much. Just a little bit darker. I think that's gonna, like halfway maybe. That looks pretty good. And then after the blues, we just go along with the greens. So let's see. This is where we really get the gold look, like the gold and the blue, the teal. You can just go all the way. You already see like how the greens are changing. Maybe a little bit less saturation, and then luminance, maybe a little bit darker, so you get like the deeper colors in here. Also going to the yellows and the oranges a little bit, because the yellow is like pretty next to the green, so that affects this as well. Yeah, I think this looks good. So now comes the cool part. We're going into selective edits. So what you can do is do a brush edit, a radial edit, or a gradient edit, or filters, whatever you want to call. So you see the island is pretty hazed, pretty blurred out. So we're gonna take that back with a dehaze effect. So we're just gonna take the radial filter and just moving around until we're trying to find it in the best spot. Now there's a tree in the way, but we're just gonna see, and we can still later on like mask stuff out if that's needed. And let's try the dehaze. So yeah, you can see what the effect is, but just don't overdo it because it's a pretty hard effect. Also what you can see is that a lot of blue came into this with doing the dehaze, so we need to counter that as well. What we can do first is like counter it with the temperature slider, maybe putting a little bit contrast and just playing around with different lighting just until we get it like looking pretty good. Okay, and then you just go back and forth just to see like how much the edit is progressing. So I think this is starting to look pretty good. So what I'm doing right now is adding a gradient filter. So now we're gonna make layers in the image. So the foreground I want to have pretty dark. So you're taking in between the bush to watch that part of the water. So just putting exposure pretty much down, and maybe also the shadows, so we get that crushed black faded look. Looking pretty good, but still just not dark enough for my tastes. So I'm just gonna take a brush filter. Now when I'm recording this with the screen, it just looks like crap. Exposure down, a little bit of contrast. So now what I'm still left to do is trying to get like a crushed sky. So adding exposure, it's just playing around because we had the radial filter. I think we need to go back to the curves and pull back the whites a little bit. Yeah, that's so now all the white, all the sky is crushed to death. Okay, then adding some grain. I really dig the grainy look today. Like nowadays, that's like my go-to. Just don't overdo it. Like 50% is way too much. I mostly go between 20 and 25-ish. I think that looks pretty good. Guys, I think we're there. Just know when to stop. And this is looking pretty good to me. Yeah, what do you think of the starting image and then the edited image that we got now? This edit is done. Now it's ready to go on the Instagrams. So guys, I told you I had something for you. So if you go to the first link, you're gonna go to the shop where you can get all the presets. So I added all the presets you just saw in the video. Actually made 4 new collections. So if you want to check those out, those are now live on the website. But I got you something as well. I just thought that everyone should have like a preset to just start off with, and that's why I wanted to share the one that I use most, the Faded Vibes preset. And I most of the time I just start with that. It gets me those faded blacks, it gets me the crushed whites, and then I go along with the edit. So I just wanted to share that with you, that it's free to grab for you, for all of you. It's a thank you for helping me out with this, with all of this channel. So I think this video is gonna be way too long now, so I'm going to end it right here. And remember, it's all about the creativity. This is that all the time I'm not spending on my phone, all the time I'm not spending doing scrolling and looking at other people, actually creating a lot more. I've been missing this a lot actually.